Hey guys, it's your boy Ebo Toby Maguire here, back again on this absolutely historic day for some even more history. Some incredible Infinite news just dropped, the second of the monthly Infinite devblogs that by the looks of it are now going to be literally every month, which is beautiful. This one is all about Infinite's weapon sandbox, so I've not read this yet, just like last time. We're going to dive into this and do a live reading and live analysis. You guys liked that before, so let's waste no time and jump right into it. Inside Infinite, January 2021. So, like before, I'm going to read through it live and analyze it live. Hey everyone, Sketch here, wishing you a belated Happy New Year. Cool. And welcome you to the first Inside Infinite of 2021. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to share our plans for the next few months and our commitment to our community. Following the last update, the start of the new year brings a new sense of focus and clarity as the studio collectively marches towards Infinite's launch later this fall. Going to be an exciting year. It is indeed. It is indeed. Inside Infinite is a recurring series that will hit Halo Waypoint on approximately the last Thursday of every month. Our goal with these blogs is to provide insight into the game we are making from the people who are making it. These updates are intended to be a fairly high level and will lay a foundation that we'll continue to build on over the months leading up to launch. That's great to hear. Rather than making this a strictly one-way endeavour, following each update we'll ask for community questions on social using hashtag Ask343 and look for opportunities to go deeper with the team. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So we're going to get even more news now in between these regular monthly updates, which is great mid-month. Anyone who has followed me over the years knows that I'm all about trying to set proper expectations, so we want to be upfront with you. While we will always strive to inform and delight our community with these updates, this isn't a place for huge announcements, specific feature deep dives, or gameplay trailers, so keep that in mind. We know you're all very eager for updated campaign gameplay, a proper multiplayer reveal, public flighting, and many other specific aspects of Infinite that will all come in due time as large industry events take centre. So basically, E3 is where we're going to hear about all of that. Flighting, campaign gameplay, multiplayer reveal, all that stuff, I imagine will be E3. So this month is the Sandbox Team. Next month, they're going to be talking with some of the folks who are working to bring Zeta Halo to life, followed by a chat with the audio team in March, and then April and May, they're still finalising. So yeah, by the sounds of it, June E3 is when we're going to hear all the big stuff. So we'll have to a little bit of a wait for that, but I'm sure it'll be worth it. Please keep in mind these plans could shift. Yep, okay. June, July, and August typically deliver big moments across the entire games industry, so while we're not committing to anything specific yet, we expect to have more than just Waypoint vlogs this summer. I bloody well hope so. And in full transparency, we're still actively working across the teams to make sure we have a strong roadmap post-summer leading up to This is great. They have a cohesive roadmap in place for giving us content to ensure everything doesn't get dry. That's great. Fantastic. Big fan. Right. Let's get into the meat of this article. The Sandbox. Sandbox Evolve. So Uni takes over here and he's talking to Quindel Hoyo, Tim Temmerman, David Price, Brian Berryhill, Elon Glaber, apologies if I didn't pronounce that right, and Kevin Stocker. So, introductions. Quinn Del Hoyo has the privileges of working in multiple roles at 343 Industries since joining the studio in 2013. His first thing, I believe, was launching the Turbo update. I remember that for Halo 4. And then multiplayer designer on Halo 5. He was a lead weapon designer early in development for Halo Infinite, and is now lead sandbox designer. His role is to establish, own, and drive the creative vision of all the sandbox features in the game. Okay, cool. Tim Temmerman is the senior designer in charge of equipment on the Sandbox team. David Price joined in 343 in 2018, and he's a weapon designer, and then became the lead weapon designer as Quinn moved to the lead Sandbox design role. Brian Berryhill joined in 2017 and works on vehicles. Elon Glaber here works as a Sandbox designer and has been for 2 years, and works on equipment like the Grappleshot and the Drop Wall. Oh yeah, Kevin Stocker, senior Sandbox designer focusing on interactive gameplay objects and other systems. Interesting. So I'd assume that would involve things like fusion coils, like being able to grapple fusion coils, and things like that, which is quite interesting that they've got somebody in a role specifically for that. Hello! Oh! Hello, beautiful. That BR. Oh! That BR is absolutely beautiful. That is just a modernization of the BR55. That is absolutely gorgeous. I am a massive fan. They do seem to have toned the scope down a little bit since the July reveal. Remember that in the reveal, the scope was really big. They seem to have kind of toned that down a little bit, so that's fantastic. It looks not too big now. That design is absolutely gorgeous. I could not love it anymore. We're also seeing this like weapon, like, I don't know, like hanger or something in the background again that we saw with the other weapons. Again, like we said in those videos, I can't help but wonder if this kind of screen here is some sort of like weapon customization or something. I assume it will be. This is the exact screen that we saw for the sniper and the spanker, so kind of have to guess that it will be. So Quinn just elaborates here on what a game sandbox actually is. For those who don't know, a sandbox refers to all of the vehicles, equipment, weapons, and objects that the player can interact with. Basically, all of the toys that the player gets to play with in the game. The sandbox includes all the player systems and verbs like jump, run, health values, shield recharges, etc. like that. So yeah, it's just things that you play with in the game. Anything you can pick up or use or interact with is a part of the sandbox. Ooh, I actually really like the look of the Grappleshot, the way that it fits. Like, it's quite sleek on the arm, and I don't know, there's something about that actual little Grappleshot unit I think looks really cool. It doesn't look too overbearing. It doesn't look like it's had to like completely overhaul the Mjolnir to fit on it. It just kind of buckles on, and it looks really nice. I like how it looks. Okay, so Uni then asks Quinn, how do you approach designing the sandbox of the entire game? And the answer is actually quite interesting. So Quinn says that as a sandbox team, they have a vision statement, which describes their purpose, what they strive for, and what they want to achieve. It basically states what their business is and how they go about their business. And in addition to that, they also have the Halo Combat Doctrine, which encompasses 5 core principles that surround everything we do as a team. He's going to touch on that in a moment. First, I'll share our vision on Sandbox Vision, along with our official team crest. A team crest. Okay, that's kind of sick, actually. That's quite sick. They've got a team. I like that. That's dope. We create weapons, vehicles, player mechanics, and systems that are intuitive and reward player mastery. We respect Halo's legacy by partnering with our players with the same honesty and integrity we use to craft our gameplay. Interesting. Cool. So just breaking that down a little bit, they say that they feel strongly that everything they create has to be easy to pick up and understand immediately, and then once the players understood it, they then want to push for depth so the player can appreciate and display in-game their skill and ability with that weapon through gameplay and mastery. We know that something is Halo ready when we've achieved those 2 requirements. The second piece of their vision is about legacy, respecting Halo's legacy by partnering with players with the same honesty and integrity we use to craft our gameplay, which means that we acknowledge that we have a 20-year franchise and recognize that players all around the world have different preferences, likes and dislikes, etc. And we commit to making sure we're mindful of past precedents and core experiences while making sure that we're considering feedback from all players, not just campaign players or just CE purists. We strive to honor Halo's rich 20-year history. Halo is special. You can say that again. We recognize that we all have jobs because of how special Halo is. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Halo and its powerful impact on gaming. Additionally, we also feel that Halo is not just special for us, but it's also special for players as well. The relationship with our players is what we as a Sandbox team feel is vital to keeping Halo as amazing as it is. Again, wholeheartedly agree. Very good to hear. Okay, something interesting here. Quinn talks about player feedback, basically community input and input from additional vectors like research studies, serves as their North Star, their anchor point, what they look for when they're designing and evaluating how to design a game. But then, obviously, players might not always get it right, they might not always get it right, and so they won't be able to act on every piece of feedback that they receive because Halo's community is so diverse, there are so many different opinions and points of view that it's impossible to act on everything. But they are committed to operating with transparency to acknowledge issues and, most importantly, to try and explain the why behind our decisions, which is good. If something's not great, you always want to hear why the creator or the designer made it that way to understand their thought process a bit better, so that's great. With Halo Infinite, the investment we have made to our tools allows us to be more responsive to balance issues and opportunities, and of course we're also committed to keeping the game fresh via meta shifts, new weapons and vehicles and more. Good. Halo Infinite truly is unlike any Halo before when it comes to our support and commitment to the game and our players. New weapons and vehicles over time? Sounds very good. Meta shifts? Interesting. Games do meta shifts very differently. League of Legends has meta shifts that are received very differently to, I don't know, Call of Duty, for example, or Rainbow Six Siege, so it's going to be interesting how Halo balances that. But it's good to hear that things over time can be changed easily thanks to Slipspace and the new engine. Okay, so the Combat Doctrine. The Halo Combat Doctrine is a document that establishes core Halo gameplay philosophy. It outlines our principles of what we must be true to when playing in Halo Sandbox specifically, the moment-to-moment combat. The primary purpose of these principles is to shape design discussions regarding foundational Halo combat in both campaign and multiplayer experiences. They guide us as we make decisions today, tomorrow, and henceforth. Every principle has a player goal that we must achieve. There's more than we can fully deep dive on today, fair enough, but we'll cover the most important part, which is the principles themselves, and I'll lightly touch on the purpose of each one. So, the dance, the infamous Halo dance, we've all heard about this before. The player goal of the dance is to make combat feel like it's in the player's hands whether or not they win or lose. Halo's combat is a dynamic rhythm of engagement, reactive and a cerebral dance that feels like a symphony of combat choices. Absolutely, Jamie Griesmer's infamous 30 seconds of fun and the official Halo combat triangle all play into that. The principle speaks to that feeling of nuanced combat between players that only Halo provides, which is the dance. Some of the key ingredients that we keep top of mind are the right balance of kill time, movement, using a diverse sandbox, energy shield based health model, etc. There's a lot of things to keep in mind. In every encounter, the player feels like their choices are what produces the outcome and the results. Basically, like, there's no third-party things coming in that you can't control. In victory, they can outsmart or outplay their opponent because they use the correct toys and skillful actions for the given situation. This principle is where the classic golden triangle is taken into consideration. Grenades, guns, melee. The iconic triangle. Got a picture of Halo 2 here. Yet again, the dance got someone, well, no one's throwing a grenade, but we've got a dude with a sword, meleeing, a dude with a carbine, etc. The nice triangle. Another pillar is tools of engagement. The goal is to make players feel that they are skilled Spartans. Armoured super soldiers, not regular foot soldiers. Each weapon or piece of equipment has a distinct feel and skill to use effectively. Not a fan of the former, but the latter, big time. Thumbs up. The tools of engagement principle encompasses the symbols of what makes Halo Halo. Fluid movement, accurate gunplay while on the move, clear roles for every weapon, vehicle, very good. Ooh, when we began development for Halo Infinite, one of our major goals was to remove redundancy in the sandbox. Weapons were the first area we wanted to have strong roles that players gravitate to because of a certain playstyle. So we started from a blank canvas and called out all of the high-level roles and playstyles that we wanted players to experience. Interesting. From there, we started to get into the details of which specific weapons were going to fill those roles. This is also where damage types as a more feature-rich system came into play. Okay. A classic example of damage type would be Plasma. Engaged Halo players know that Plasma, strip shields, yeah. In order to really build out the player choice and rules of our sandbox, we felt it was important to feature multiple damage types in the game so that we have more attributes to play with when designing vehicles and weapons. As the game launches and we continue to develop new weapons, there will always be some crossover of roles and playstyles, but we'll be much more involved with keeping the sandbox fresh, which means that weapons on day one will assuredly be different after multiple updates and patches. That's interesting. Multiple damage types. Halo's only ever had, like, ballistics and plasma. Multiple types. Okay, I'm curious. I am very curious. Got that very iconic piece of Halo 2 art there from the Halo 2 manual. By Lorraine McLeese as well. Lorraine McLeese is a Halo legend if you don't know. Ooh, hello. Oh, Halo 5 non-fang. So, another pillar is Lone Wolf, the goal of which being that players feel that they can stand alone and be effective without teammates or AI companions. Again, big agree. So this is basically about ensuring that players can stand on their own 2 feet and ensuring that they don't have to rely on teammates to win a game. They can, if they are good enough, win a game on their own, outmatch the enemy on their own if they need to, because they're given tools that are powerful enough to do so, that facilitate that kind of lone wolf gameplay. And of course, one of the ways they do this is by looking at designing, tuning, and balancing the starting loadout for players in multiplayer. Basic traits, tools, and weapons must allow the player to be effective from the moment they spawn, without the need to scavenge for good weapons. Again, big agree. The starting loadout is so important because it has to almost act as a buffer until you can find a better weapon. It can't be too overpowered, but it's got to be good enough for you to, again, like Quinn said, be able to stand on your own 2 feet until you can find a better weapon. Another player goal is to make them connected to their actions, which makes sure that player actions are quick, frictionless, and responsive, with a picture of Halo 2, which is very fitting because to me, Halo 2 is the snappiest, most satisfying Halo gameplay. so hopefully they took some notes from that. They say that with Infinite being on PC, they've rebuilt the control scheme to allow players to fully rebind and remap their controls, regardless of platform. That is big. That's huge for console players, I'm a big fan of that. How players control Chief or their Spartan is crucial, and we recognise that players feel the most connected to the game when control customization is fully featured. The next player pillar is survivability, which basically says that players have a clear understanding of their vulnerability and threat identification, which obviously has energy shields as a massive part of it. Energy shields need to feel strong, but not too strong. Weapons don't need to tear through them too fast, unless of course it's a plasma-based weapon that's meant to. And if they create a sandbox toy that violates that feeling of strength with shields, then they run into problems as we conflict with that foundational gameplay element. I agree, it's about time to kill and not having it be like Halo 5 beta speed, where it was instant but not too slow as well. And so, just to round up that section on pillars, basically all of those pillars feed into how they design every weapon, every vehicle, every item, every ability, how they modify traits like shields and health values, jumping, movement speeds, everything. All the core elements of this game, weapons, movement, vehicles, everything, is based around these pillars, essentially. However, as the Halo Infinite meta shifts, apparently these pillars could shift as well, which would be quite interesting to see such a kind of foundational change in the way the game is balanced. It would definitely freshen things up along the line. Of course, that is also posing a risk of completely breaking the balance of your game. I mean, League of Legends has this issue quite a lot when a new champion comes out. They end up being broken half the time and it breaks the meta, so we'll have to see how this goes with Infinite. Okay, so the next question that Uni asked the team is about equipment. Obviously, the fan-favourite Halo 3 feature that is returning in Halo Infinite. And he says that he's seen people talking about the equipment's role in the sandbox, so what aspects of equipment stood out and made it clear that it was a good choice for improving the combat loop in Halo Infinite? So equipment is meant to be a forced multiplayer by design. The player can flip a combat scenario on its head if they possess an equipment item, much like how Chief did that to the Brute when he tossed a spike grenade at him in the campaign. What was a difficult situation was swung in Chief's favour due to quick thinking and instincts, and again, that's what I like about equipment. With Spartan abilities, that was also the case, but you spawned with them, whereas with equipment, you have to go out of your way to actually find these pieces of equipment to allow you to swing battles. You don't just get given it by default, you have to actually work towards being given that right to swing combat scenarios like that. In multiplayer, equipment is earned via combat and or scavenging the play space, which brings a level of fairness and competition to the experience, again, very much like Halo 3. The equipment will perform very similar between campaign and multiplayer, however, they are tailoring each equipment for the sandbox for multiplayer, so expect to see some minor differences between multiplayer and campaign when it comes to acquiring equipment, and also the frequency in which they can be used and other things. So yeah, they're basically, the actual effect of the equipment, by the sounds of it, will be identical. It'll just be the little minor details like the damage they do, or their duration, or the health they have, or whatever that they balance for multiplayer. When they were designing equipment, they gravitated towards those that complemented and enhanced the core combat loop, pushing the boundaries just far enough to feel empowering without being disruptive. We looked for equipment that could be paired with maps, modes, weapons, and vehicles in new and effective ways. Another key aspect was equipment with a low skill floor and a high skill ceiling, something I absolutely love to hear. Halo 5 was like a high skill floor and a high skill ceiling. You need to have the disparity between the two to allow new players to get into the game, but to give professional players or experienced players more room to get better at the game. That's very good to hear. And then, compared to recent Halo titles with more innate abilities, equipment in Infinite creates fewer overall instances of change within the core combat loop. Bloody lovely to hear. However, we can make those instances much more impactful and fun. We have more room to push the boundaries of our sandbox, allowing new ways for players to express their skill and game knowledge across various playstyles, which is why equipment was a clear choice. Another bigger part of equipment is that it's the connection to a legacy element from Halo 3, something that players enjoyed and can understand, and upgrading that into a modern Halo experience, and here we have a look at the drop wall, concept art by the looks of it, I think? You know what, I think no, that's the actual model for the drop wall, and it actually looks like a real kind of banishized version of the deployable cover from Halo 3, which is lovely. I like the design of that. Okay, next up, Uni asks about vehicles and the role they'll play in Halo Infinite Sandbox. And so, apparently they unlock new traversal types, even land vehicles do now as well. So if you're going over an area that's covered in rocky crags and fallen trees, then a Warthog, with its high ride height and large tyres, will eat it up. going over a flat marsh covered with pockets of water, then the anti-grav of the Ghost will let you smoothly boost through it. Stuck in a canyon trying to get to a base, then the Banshee makes it quick up and over. Now this is really cool, so to meet the fantasy of a more expansive Halo, they really needed to unlock our environment artists and level designers to make much more complex terrain. Early on, I made the promise to these teams that if they made awesome looking environments, we'd make the vehicles able to traverse them. We have dev builds of all the older Halos going back to CE, and this terrain is order of magnitudes more difficult. While this has caused significant retuning of core vehicles that have been in every Halo, when you see the gorgeous environments in Halo Infinite, I think it's worth it. That's cool. I actually like that there's an element of sandbox interaction, or rather environment interaction with vehicles. Like, Ghosts are more effective in certain areas, Warthogs in other areas. I love that. That's actually really cool. That's going to make replaying the campaign a lot more fun. This is also great. They make a point about bringing back like party vehicles, aka multi-seat vehicles, which Halo 5 barely had any of. It's great to hear that he thinks that single-player vehicles are important for encounter design, but multiplayer vehicles are necessary for Halo's community. Falcon, please! Okay, so the next bit is about the damage types they talked about earlier, which sound very interesting. So, apparently Halo, of course, has already had damage types since day one, but they felt in order to achieve stronger weapon identity than previous titles, aka avoiding redundancy, they wanted to have another category of attributes that they could fold into our designs to create a stronger choice for players. So, for example, if we had the damage system in Halo 5, then the light rifle would have had unique traits because it shoots hard light. Rather, all hard light weapons would have had unique attributes to them that aren't shared with your typical UNSC weaponry. That's a very interesting way to get around redundancy. We'll have to see if it works or not. Instead of using the weapon that you like because of how it shoots or handles, in Halo Infinite you might want to grab a certain weapon because of how it affects other players, the environment, or vehicles. In essence, the ambition for damage types is to better integrate weapon types, ammo types, faction, etc. into the gameplay loop in a way that is easily understood by the player. That way the player can make better combat decisions based on the scenario. In addition to further clarity and purpose to the legacy damage types, i.e. kinetic and plasma, the team has also been pursuing new surprises for players that we're eager to talk about in the months ahead. I'll let Dave chime in now. So we want to keep the rules for the damage type simple, understandable, and sustainable. Halo already has a loose rule set with plasma weapons, but we wanted to further define this rule set, so players can have expectations of a damage type. If the player wanted to quickly strip personal shields, they could use plasma, for example, but this doesn't dictate a weapon's playstyle, class, or power level. I could still have a shotgun-style weapon that is any of those damage types. This approach allows us to still make multiple weapons that feel unique within a damage type. We want weapons to feel diverse, even if they share the same damage type. Interesting. That's going to be one of those things that we're really just going to have to wait until we play the game to judge. That sounds certainly very interesting. I'm very intrigued. Ooh, and here we have a picture of the Needler. Again, it looks like a Needler. It looks very nice. I love the pink and blue contrast. Big fan. Also a bit of purple there on the bottom of the gun. I like it. Once again, in that hangar area, gotta be customization of some sort. Has to be. Okay, interesting. So now Uni asked them about the Bulldog because there was some attention given to the Bulldog because of its unique characteristics after the demo in July. For sure, you can say that again. Would you or someone on the team be able to speak about the Bulldog's role in Infinite Sandbox? So, the Bulldog is an exciting new shotgun weapon that is fast-firing and fast-loading. We felt that the shotgun playstyle has been underrepresented in previous Halo titles, particularly in multiplayer. We found that there are a lot of players that want to be in-your-face CQC frontliner, but have never had a more readily available, less powerful but still effective shotgun that allowed them to play that role frequently across the multiplayer experience. That is essentially the player story genesis of how the Bulldog came to be. We wanted to have a shotgun that was not a power weapon. The Bulldog is a versatile weapon that provides the player the role of a shotgun and an up-close playstyle more frequently in multiplayer than previous Halo titles, as it's lower on the lethality scale of weapons and is thus more prevalent. Similar to that, we wanted a shotgun that embraces the rapid-fire, dish-out multiple shots quickly. See, now, there's a picture of the Bulldog, once again in the hangar. Now, I disagree with that. I feel like the shotgun was always meant to be a power weapon. The very design of it is that if you miss that first shot, it's very easy for someone to double beat you. In fact, if it being too good is a problem, how about you make it so the pump animation is longer, so people can get a double beat in between pumps to punish someone missing a shot? I don't like the idea of making it a fast fire weapon. I'll be honest, I'll wait till I try it out in game, but for now, I really don't like that. That's very counter to what the shotgun should be. Nah, not a big fan of that. And then the team just basically talked for a little bit about how they rebalance weapons, and the fact that weapons will be rebalanced after flighting and after launch as well, and they'll be picking from various sources of information and data to rebalance them. Yeah, that's the weapons. Oh, hello! We have another picture here of the Commando, which looks pretty much the same, honestly, as the July demo. I'm not entirely averse with the design of this weapon. I'm not entirely against it. It's very interesting to certainly to not have or to rather have a Halo rifle that's not bullpup. Very interesting. We'll have to see what it's like when we get our hands on it. Then they just go on to talk a little bit about the PC version of Infinite, which they are building as a first-class endeavor, and is another aspect to Halo Infinite that they are actively taking into account, how keyboard and mouse will interact with the sandbox, because bear in mind, this is the first ever Halo game to be designed on PC at the same time as console, and the way that players play with keyboard and mouse is obviously very different to controller, so the balancing of this game is going to be quite unique in that aspect, because they're going to have to balance it for two very, very different input systems, so it's going to be interesting to see how they manage that. So as of now, apparently the Sandbox team have all the tools already, all the weapons and everything already in the game, and they're testing them and squashing bugs in them. Apparently also there are exciting efforts kicking off for future updates, like new vehicles and equipment, etc., which I presume is going to be post-launch. But yeah, apparently all of the launch content is in the game now, which is good, and they're just bug testing it now, and they're also taking time to evaluate the visuals of certain sandbox items with the goal of ensuring that everything is landing the way that the art directors envisioned, and as a result, some sandbox items we've previously shown might be getting a facelift here and there by the next time you see them. Oh, is that the... hang on. That's the Hydra. Oh. Okay, we've kind of seen that already in Mega Bloks, but I am a big, big, big fan of that Hydra design. Oh, that is gorgeous. I like the more sleek design of it compared to how kind of chunky it was in Halo 5. That's lovely. I am a big fan of that Hydra design, and I'm also quite happy the Hydra's back as well. I'm one of the few people that liked it in Halo 5, so I'm happy to see that it's back and with a much better design. Oh, yes, please. Whew. Okay, so the penultimate question that Uni asked them is what their favourite weapon, vehicle, or equipment is in Infinite. Quinn says that one of his favourite sandbox items is something they haven't shown yet, but he's sure that he won't be alone with his favouritism once they reveal it to the community. This vehicle isn't totally brand new, but it has received a fresh coat of paint while awaiting its triumphant return to Halo. God, there's so many things that could be. Let me know in the comments what you think. TT, I'm sorry, I've forgotten names. TT says the Grappleshot is his favourite, DP the Ravager, EG the Grappleshot, and BB the Warthog. Great choice. And the final question is, whose idea was it to allow us to pick up and throw fusion coils? So Quinn says that fusion coil tossing is the brainchild of one of our senior sandbox designers, Kevin Stoker. He's the primary designer, owner of all of our interactive sandbox object systems like grav lifts, man cannons, etc. I called that at the start of the video, just want to say that. There are a few more surprises with fusion coils too. Remember how we wanted to better integrate the damage type system into the entire sandbox? Fusion coils will be no exception. Holy shit, that's really cool. Although, wait until we show what we've done to another classic sandbox item that has been in Halo since the beginning, but hasn't gotten much love until now. What? Okay, I'm curious. I'm very curious. So Kevin said that apparently the feature really just came up when they were messing around in one of the test levels. Just thought that it would be cool to be able to throw them, so I put it in, and he put it in, and people seemed to like it. Since they were well received in playtests, we gave them more attention, like adding the doomed state so they can propel themselves around when damaged. Lovely. Oh, here we have a new look at the AR with a yellow stripe. That is, again, very Reach. I'm personally not the biggest fan of Reach's AR. However, the design as it stands here, I do like. I think that looks pretty nice. Yeah, I like that. It really is just a Reach MA37, a bit updated, but I like the look of it here. We'll have to wait and see. And then finally, to round this devblog off, yet another word from Halo Infinite creative director, Joseph Staten. Woohoo! Dancers with Hunters. Oh yes, the combat dance, the beating heart of every Halo game. For grizzled Spartan veterans, this should be a familiar scene. Imagine a Forerunner interior, a timeless metallic vault with soaring ceilings. It's quiet, empty, except for a pair of hunters, shields up, shoulder spikes twitching, blocking your path forward. Very silent cartographer, Joe. Very. What to do? That's easy, I said to myself. The first time I fought hunters in Halo Infinite, bait them, get them to charge, then step aside, pivot and direct as much firepower into their exposed wormy backsides as you can before they turn and turtle. But when I tried these classic dance steps, the hunters had something else in mind. As expected, one of the hunters charged, exposing its weak spot. By the time I'd pivoted to face it, however, it had already pivoted to face me. That's odd, I thought. Must be a bug. I tried the dance steps again, same result. Except this time, the second hunter filled my face with fuel rod projectiles, sending me scrambling for cover. Crouched behind a Forerunner pillar, shields fried and health deep in the red, I had a quick think. What's different? Hunters turn faster. Okay, assume this isn't a bug. What's the game trying to tell me, and what new dance moves have I got? As another volley of enemy fire rattled my virtual head inside my virtual helmet, I remembered. I have equipment. Specifically, in the case of more reactive hunters, I have a Grappleshot, which means I'm faster and more mobile too. I don't want to spoil your own fun or experimentation with a detailed description of what happened next, but suffice to say, the Grappleshot didn't cheese my encounter with the hunters, it deepened it. Simultaneously made me feel more powerful and the hunters more intelligent. We all knew the rules had changed, but the hunters weren't going to let me dance on their graves without a fight. This is just one example from a single encounter, but for me, it encapsulates what's so exciting about the totality of the work that Quinn, Tim, David, Brian, Elon, Kevin, and the entire Sandbox team have done to deepen and expand Halo Combat Toolkit. It's great to feel their respect for Legacy, it's even better to experience how they've improved upon it. And that is it. Very interesting, our first taste of hunters. That to me sounded very much like that first hunter encounter in Silent Cartographer, when I believe it's when you open the door that the zealot's behind and you go deeper down into the facility and you're in that room where it's quiet, there's a soaring ceiling, and then hunters pop out. Very interesting. And so, that is going to do it for the Halo Infinite January 2021 devblog. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Mine are like 99% positive. I'll be honest, I still don't like the sound of the Bulldog, but everything else sounds pretty nice to me, I'm not gonna lie. I'm looking forward to seeing those extra damage types. They said kinetic and plasma. I'm looking forward to seeing how they interact with the sandbox. Looking forward to trying vehicles in multiple different terrains in the campaign. And that hunter thing that Joe just said, very, very Silent Cartographer. You know, with the inspiration taken from CE, would I be surprised if they end up like semi-recreating Silent Cartographer in this game? Not at all, and I'm here for it. So thank you very much for watching. It is almost 1 AM and I need to go and edit this video. So thank you very, very much for watching. I can't even speak properly right now. This is Emo Tobey Maguire. No, wait. Signing out.